Hey, you guys, you're going to want to listen all the way through this episode because we're going to tell you what not to do while you're at a Broadway show. And maybe you'll be surprised at who did what you should not do at a Broadway show. Or maybe you won't.
You're also going to find out why Sharon is no longer allowed at an F1 track. Enjoy the show, everyone.
Well, hey to you. And you, and you.
I like it. But I have a surprise announcement for you that I was keeping.
Oh my God, we haven't even said anything, and we're already starting with surprise announcements.
I know, because I thought this would. I know you like a good surprise. I know sometimes you're like, save it for the show.
Yeah, what is it?
So, you know how last week you quantified for the first time in a while why Adam is not with us at the moment?
Yes.
Because Adam has a high-priced job being the program director of our sister station, Énergie.
So they would be our sœur station.
Yeah, our sister de sœur. So you'd mentioned that. Anyways, we got a YouTube comment from, I believe the handle is Ev3.
Yeah.
And Ev3 is just devastated that Hot Adam is missing.
Oh my goodness.
So they asked us if we could at some point figure out a way to get Adam back on the show for a visit. So we'll try to.
Well, you know what we could do at the very least is take away one of the 90s Now screens behind your head and put his picture there.
Yeah,
because that way he'd be here in spirit, and we could
he would be. Yeah.
For different occasions like holidays.
Yeah.
We could change. We could put a Santa
Yeah.
hat on him. We could put a
Yeah.
Speedo on him for the hot summer.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
something.
So anyways, just I just thought I'd pass that along because I thought that was very cute that Hot Adam is missed. Yeah.
Oh, that minx.
Oh yeah.
He's living his full life, right? Getting
Yeah,
a
and
big job and
he's not the first. Remember we had that lovely well, we haven't Ginger Bear.
yes.
So I'm not sure Ginger Bear hasn't poked his head out of the YouTube comments in a while, but he was also hot for Adam. So
Well, can't blame him.
yeah. So what's that song? Hot for Summer or Hot for Summer Girls or whatever? Because we have Hot for Adam is what we have on our
Hot
show.
for Adam boy.
Yeah.
You
Anyways,
know
we
why?
appreciate you
Because
still listening. Thank you.
success is sexy. That's why.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, speaking of success, we'll start. We'll talk a little bit about how. Do you remember a little Broadway show called Hamilton?
Yes.
It's only turned into a cultural phenomenon. We're going to tell you about Anthony Ramos and who he says was the scariest celeb to have in the audience during his run in Hamilton and why they were so scary.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Margaret Cho saying that Ellen DeGeneres was weird when it came to being on her show, and we'll talk about why she thought she was weird. Kelly's trivia will be challenging in all the right ways, but how good are you going to feel when you get at least one or maybe none out of two? Just for trying. Okay.
Yeah, there's a solid chance.
Yeah. Also, your 90s rewind will keep you cool even on a hot day such as the one we are enjoying here in Montreal as we go back to the summer sounds of 1998. Record-breaking highs for this day and the next couple of days where we are in the world. And guess what? There's nothing fun about record-breaking highs here.
Yeah.
I think if you're somewhere, like Italy was super hot. And you're like, I am in Italy and this is what it feels like.
Yeah, yeah.
When you're here and your options are the same and decidedly not genuinely Italian, you're like, ugh, I gotta go to the mall. It's boiling outside.
You and I had that discussion actually, and I'm sure people listening and watching will relate in the fact that we talked yesterday about how the heat's there and then it hits a tipping point where you're like, OMG.
Yeah.
From the morning into the afternoon. And you had that thought yesterday. I had that experience today. And it was funny. I literally thought of you because I'd come in for lunch a bit later. It was like 1:30 or something. And then I think because I'd been out in the heat all day, I was very much accustomed to where I was at. But then I came into the air conditioning and then like 45 minutes later went back out and I was like, OMG. Like,
yeah.
So
it's hot. Like it
took me in like another half an hour to acclimate back into the boiler room. So
yeah, it's like getting hit with heat, literally hit.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's hard to maneuver. Anyways, it is what it is. Global warming is a thing.
Yeah.
Don't bother sending a message saying, no, it's not.
Yeah.
Just don't. We're going to talk about Jennifer Aniston, who still has some things she wants to do in her career.
Mm-hmm.
And not surprisingly that she wants to get this done. We've also got an update on the case involving Matthew Perry's doctor. So I figure we should start there. Start with our friends.
Mm-hmm.
So the doctor has agreed to plead guilty, according to federal prosecutors and his own attorneys. So pleading guilty to 4 counts of distribution of ketamine could mean 40 years in prison.
Mm-hmm. That's probably the
So,
max, right? Or whatever.
well, yeah, and
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many layers to this story. Not the not the least of which is that he is one of 5 people that are being charged or putting in guilty pleas or whatever. Um, but for this doctor, his lawyers have gone on to say that for his role in providing ketamine to Matthew Perry during a 13-day period prior to his death, that they believe it's important to clarify that the doctor was not treating Matthew Perry at the time of his death, and that the ketamine was caused, and that the ketamine that caused his death was not provided by the doctor. So he wasn't his doctor, and he wasn't that particular batch, I suppose, for lack of a better, more
Mm-hmm.
succinct term, was not provided by him. Um, but like, there's a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
There's court documents that point to, he was allowed to be taking the drug
Mm-hmm.
under prescription of under the supervision rather of a doctor, but um, he wanted more, basically. And this doctor who is pleading guilty was the one that gave him more. So I'm not sure why you'd want to stipulate why you weren't the doctor and you didn't make the prescription when clearly you gave him. You've admitted that. Anyways, there's a lot to the story. So one of 5 people charged in connection with Matthew Perry's death back almost 2 years ago now, from the effects of this drug. So the others are his assistant, the go-between person, the drug dealer, alleged, they say. That's why I put the air quotes up and I made it sound like I did. So for those that aren't watching us on YouTube, that drug dealer was known as the ketamine queen
Mm-hmm.
of North Hollywood. And all but the ketamine queen have now agreed to plead guilty in exchange for the cooperation. So, again, with the specifics, I think it's important to point out that this, I think, crappy thing was that we heard it at the time too, was that the text message exchange between the doctor and I think the assistant was, I wonder how much this moron will pay, and let's find out.
Yeah.
So you're implicated in knowing what you're doing, and whether or not you were the official doctor on the case or whatever, you're right to plead guilty and sort of suffer the consequences, whatever they may be. And it likely won't be that he'll get 40 years. We know that because he is one of the group that's pleading guilty in order to cooperate and have that probably lessen their jail time.
Yeah.
It's just
Um,
awful, though.
the whole thing is awful. I remember the thing that bothered me almost the most, apart from Matthew dying, even though, of course, we're not friends, but knowing that I think anybody who watch Friends, you feel like they're all your friends, and so that's why
Mm-hmm.
it hits harder. Um, I hated reading that text exchange that they called him a
Mm-hmm.
moron because, like, I think for anybody who has compassion and empathy, and obviously a love for Matthew Perry, like he clearly had, like, severe is not even the word, like a ridiculously severe addiction
Yeah.
problem to
Yep.
alcohol, to all these things, and now the latest was the ketamine. And, you know, I think Matthew was a very sweet boy from what, all accounts that we've ever heard about him, and very
Mm-hmm.
kind and all that kind of stuff. So to know that these piranhas were circling
Yeah.
and just being so crass about, like, his disease.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's really gross. And so I wish he'd get 40 years.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, like we said, they probably won't, and
Hmm.
that's the sad truth. The other thing is that how do you then continue to practice whatever your medicine is?
Yeah, and I also thought it was ridiculous, like the part that you read where they wanted to be clear that he wasn't the doctor on file and like it wasn't the batch, whatever that killed Matthew. I understand the second part, like him wanting to quantify or whatever that it wasn't his, but
Hmm.
like, why are you trying so hard to go on record that you weren't the doctor? Then it's even worse. It's even worse then that you're
Yeah,
not the doctor
exactly.
and you're prescribing him stuff. So you're an idiot.
And again, the yeah, it's almost like we have to put air quotes on prescription because
Yeah.
it's abuse of power.
Hmm.
I mean, on both ends. Matthew Perry wasn't an angel. He knew he had an
Oh
addiction,
yeah.
and he was battling that and living with that, um, and obviously wanting more
Yeah. Yeah.
when the prescription comes with a dose, and it totally highlights and spotlights the addiction and the problem with that. Uh, but I mean, at this point, like it's it when it gets to the point where we have to discuss the details of like that kind of minutia, he's gone,
Yeah.
and that's the sad reality of his situation and all the offshoots of that situation.
Hmm.
And
I
like I said, we'd circle back to the idea of let's see how much this moron will pay. It's gross.
yeah.
Like they
Yeah, because
knew.
I don't think you did, Sharon, but my better half got the Matthew Perry book, so I like on Kindle or whatever, so I ended up reading it. And you know, it was sad to read, a lot of
Hmm.
it. And just like yeah, it just feels like most of the time during Friends he wasn't enjoying the success because he was battling so many addictions. So or like I think at that time it very much was the alcohol at that point, but
Hmm.
it's just like I don't know. I don't know. It's and like, his mother, I'm sure is still devastated. He was pretty close with his siblings.
Hmm.
So it's just, and I guess it's just like I don't like piranhas, and that's what these
Yeah.
people circling him. And he's not the only one. I'm sure there's a million cases of that in Hollywood and
Yep.
wherever else, but that entertainment capital for sure there's a lot of that going on. And there's pressures that we don't like even like right now, the Justin Bieber thing, like Justin is in the news almost all the time right now for everybody being concerned about his behavior because he's been posting things to social media. Specifically, I see it on Instagram. I don't know if he's posting it on other channels also, but he's been erratic the last while.
Hmm.
And, and recently, like he got caught on tape. I wouldn't even say caught on tape, like they were being relentless, the paparazzi trying to get video of him. Like, I don't know if he was leaving an establishment or going to the restaurant, something. And he lost his mind. And like, I don't blame him because like he literally cannot walk down the street.
Hmm.
Like he cannot because everybody wants the paparazzi shot of him right now, especially because, the rumor mill is that he's not great. So it's like, what can they get? So I wish Justin would move out of like Los Angeles. I think like I wish he would move maybe back to Canada or something and really try to be
Hmm.
anonymous for a few years and get himself together. But it's like there's things that we don't understand as people who are not famous, like to that degree. Like and Matthew Perry was one of them during that
Yep.
heyday. Like he could like everything they did was amazing, right? Even if it
Yeah.
wasn't. Because he was Matthew Perry, she was Jennifer Aniston, that was Courtney Cox. Like for and I know and it's funny because I read too like some comments on I'm not sure if we're gonna get to the story this week, but I sent you a story about Alanis Morissette.
Yeah. We're
And
not getting to that this week because I was going to save it till next show.
yeah, which is totally good. So I won't wreck it, but I will say that in the commentary, like she talks about stuff in the article, and then I just happened to catch a couple of comments from people who were commenting on the article, and
Hmm.
they were like, poor her, like she's all the millions that she's got because and it's like what? Like, yes, for
Well, you know
sure.
what? Let's talk about her. Let's talk about that now, and we'll put one of the other
Okay.
stories onto the next show because it's the take of that story was as a 21-year-old superstar cannonball success story.
Hmm.
She, self-described as an empath and a sensitive person. and basically had no one to hide behind because she was a success as a solo artist. She was the one that was getting all the attention. So she basically said for in the industry, if for the leeches in the industry, if they weren't able to basically have sex with her,
Hmm.
but it wasn't have sex, it was the F word verb,
Yeah.
then they didn't know what to do with her. So she couldn't be herself in a way that probably could have saved her, right?
Hmm.
She describes her own condition as, being made worse when kind of confronted with like not good stuff. But if you're in a healthy, supportive situation, then a person like that thrives.
Yeah.
Meaning, hang on a second, I wanted to get the quote exact because it's important to mention that like there is a leech element to the industry, and then it transcends into um, the paparazzi and that need to get the photo or that need to get the video or that need because it translates into dollars for them because there's a weird need from the fan perspective of people that think that they are entitled to see that person in ways that they feel um, closer to them. So she talked about um, seeing Courtney Love being secure in her loudness, and that seemed to be valued, which is interesting because I'm sure Courtney Love would have thought, "Hey, man, I needed help too." But what Alanis Morissette said was that she said, "Okay, well, I'm going to pretend to be an extrovert then for the next 25 years so I can deal with it." But part of that included, she said, tequila, anything that allowed me to be the life of the party, or if I was doing a talk, it'd be Xanax, anything that would help me pretend I'm not me. So imagine
Hmm.
that weird culture of you know feeling entitled to know more about your favorite artists, whoever they are, actors or singers or performers, whatever, but that there's a push to them over the edge that they need to then self-medicate to be able to survive your needs.
Yeah.
It's so screwed up.
Yeah, it is. It's really, and that's why, that's why when I read that article and then happened to see these comments underneath it, like I was seeing red. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, Alanis, especially because I was actually very shocked to see the derogatory comments about Alanis because if you think about Alanis, like as even a public persona, like she's cool. You know what I mean? She's kind of like Pink.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like there's just a cool factor there
Yeah.
and a sweetness and she's Canadian. You know what I mean? Like all that stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was surprised to see the aggression about like
Mm-hmm.
poor her, like her and her millions or like what and whatever. And I was just like, oh my God, like she's a
Well, there's
person
no
too.
pleasing them. There's
Yeah.
no pleasing that person.
Yeah.
So it's almost like don't do the interviews or don't do the shows or whatever. You're never going to make those people happy because
Yeah.
look how quickly they turn. They're reading the article, they
Yeah.
read it, and then they comment negatively. She talked
Yeah.
about how she has an anxious, depressive tendency,
Yeah.
and that those who are sensitive are more susceptible to that kind of an environment, right? She said, so
Yeah.
if you put a highly sensitive person in an environment where they're browbeaten or reduced, they'll basically want to kill themselves. It's
Mm,
the worst, she said. If you put a highly sensitive person in an environment where they're supported, championed, and listened to, they thrive.
yeah. Yeah.
But it really is a tipping point, though, when you think that insatiable need for more from celebrities is
Hmm.
ridiculous. Those people that are commenting, I'm at a point now where I don't certainly don't read the comments. Um, but like, I wonder if they're bots, first of all, and second of all.
Right.
But overall, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Get a
But
grip.
But this is the thing too, like, especially, social media can do so many good things, but then you see all the bad things, like where
Mm,
so, celebrities like Selena Gomez, who has, I think she still is the most followed person in the world on Instagram.
wow.
I haven't checked the stats recently, but that's what she was. Like she had to go off that for years, like, or at least a year. And I think it was longer where her team was handling stuff because like the amount of comments that she was getting constantly about, and it's like, who are you people? Like, because if
Yeah.
you're a fan of hers, what are you doing? Like it's, apart from if you're saying, look, I love your hair or like I like thanks for that song or whatever, like if you're a fan, then be a fan. Don't then say like, oh my God, you put on weight or whatever the heck, because I know there was a lot of body issue stuff with her.
Yeah.
Being said, I think especially too, because I think she put on a bit of, I think because of some medication, because she did have that transplant,
Hmm.
right? So I think for a while people were saying like all kinds of things about that. And it's just like, I can't imagine like this person is supposed to bring you joy, you following her, like you're, whatever. Then why are you turning on them? I
That's why
don't
I
get it.
wonder about the legitimacy of the fan that's commenting. Is it a fan that's commenting, or is it someone that's in line with the paparazzi that fuels that fire?
Mm,
It's a it's an ugly fire, but
mhm.
having those comments generates some weird interest, and let's see how this plays out.
Yeah.
It's like not healthy.
It's crazy. So I do feel for yeah, like for the like again, yeah, like the celebrities obviously have X amount of money, X amount like like Billie Eilish, I'm sure for a long time, even though I'm sure she's very careful about what she does, like, and not just her, Billie Eilish, Justin Bieber, Taylor
Yeah,
Swift,
yeah.
like the list goes on. Like you technically don't need to pay for anything anymore because anything you want, that company is going to want you to wear their shoes or wear their hat or whatever it is. So yes, they get a lot of things because of who they are, but also they are people. And so
Hmm.
like you can only take so much from them. And that's why like honestly, I honestly don't know how Taylor Swift functions as a human. Like because talk about somebody who has the eyes of the world on her constantly. And like I'm, the last few months she's been MIA for the most part, right? It's like since the tour finished in December, she's basically gone underground apart from a few places that we've seen her. And I'm happy for her. Like I'm happy that she's doing whatever she needs to do to live an undercover life at this point,
Yep.
to try to have a normal life because she's literally her and Beyonce are the hottest people on the planet.
Yep.
And you can't and like also too like I was just
I
listening
can't
to
imagine any of them are reading the comments
well
because you have to save yourself at a certain point
yeah I
and
think
realize
there's
that it's so
yeah
unreal and unhealthy.
I think so. I hope I think Beyonce for sure doesn't read. I think Taylor
Yeah.
probably doesn't read much anymore, but I think she was for that would be my sense, but
Yeah.
I think she has layers now that hopefully protect her, but I don't know, it's just like but even in that documentary, wasn't it Miss Americana where she was like I'm fully aware that this my existence is completely like I shouldn't say ridiculous, but like it's
Hmm. Of
completely not normal. You know what I mean? Like she's like
course.
because she can't even leave like a New York hotel without having like a gajillion people downstairs watching her get into the car.
Yeah.
Plus, she has to have like she has like she legit has a full-time security team. Like
Of course.
she's like the president of the United States. Like she has to
Except
travel.
smarter.
Yeah, like she legit has to travel with like a security team because and I'm
Yeah.
sure the security team it's not even just like I'm sure they do stuff like the Secret Service does. Like I wouldn't be surprised if they have to plan where she's going to know exits, entrances, can they get her
Oh,
out,
of course. 1,000
all that
percent.
stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like she's not just showing up to X restaurant for no reason. You know what I
Nope.
mean?
Nope.
So,
Exactly.
anyways, that was a
Well, I'm
lot.
glad we covered that Alanis bit because
Yeah,
I thought we would save it for next week, but it is important to mention that stuff. And
yeah,
also, like, I think that it does bear stating and then repeating that, think twice about what you're doing online, whoever
yeah,
you are.
yeah, yeah. Because I've seen some really crazy, as you have for sure, and as everybody. But it's crazy sometimes the things that you see from people who claim to be fans
Yeah.
of X.
Yep.
You know? And like you said too, that's the part that I don't understand when people think they're owed something from this
Oh,
person.
yeah. No, exactly. Well, that's when you
Like,
got to question their mental health,
yeah.
truthfully. Okay, so we're going to talk a bit about Broadway on a couple accounts, but not before we get into Kelly's trivia.
Bing bong.
Bing bong.
Which one would you like to start with, Sharon? Pop culture or art and literature?
Pop culture.
Which American sports dude released their fifth series of sports shoe in 1990?
Michael Jordan.
Good for you.
Thank you kindly.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And that's our show, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
It's funny because when you were saying the answer, like my first thought actually, I guess just because it was 1990, it was early, but obviously he had been around since 84, but I actually thought it was going to be Magic Johnson.
That would have been ridiculously wrong.
Yeah, it would have. So good thing for Michael Jordan. By the
Yay.
way, I will say, if you, I think it's on Netflix. There's a documentary out now called Shaq Making the Moves, I think it
Yeah.
is. Have you seen it, Sharon? On
No,
the
not yet.
I'm pretty sure it's on Netflix. Please watch it. It's really fascinating. It talks about like because both Shaq and Allen Iverson were the two biggest athletes back in the day to sign with Reebok.
Hmm.
You know, everybody was pretty much with Nike or Adidas or whatever. Um, and they signed and they've stayed. Like Allen Iverson actually has like a lifetime deal with Reebok.
Wow.
But they've been brought back now
The
to
original AI.
the original AI, and they've been brought back to Shaq is the president and AI is the vice president of like Reebok basketball.
Wow.
And it talks about how like I think it's 8 episodes, the series. And I was honestly it was fascinating. It's fascinating and it's fascinating to see both how astute that Shaq and Allen Iverson are about what needs to be done to get Reebok back where they should be with basketball fans. You know what I
Cool.
mean? And just the moves that Shaq is trying to make and Allen was doing. Anyways, it's very good. So if you have a chance to watch it, I believe it's Shaq making the moves or making moves on Netflix.
Okay. Thank
Um,
you.
Art and literature. Completed in 1998, which artist created a public sculpture in northern England known as the Angel of the North?
Well, have you ever heard of this person?
I have not.
Then
Do you
how am
want
I supposed to
do you want initials
Sure.
just to give it a go?
Yes.
AG.
Allison Granger.
Anthony Gormley.
See how close I was?
Yeah.
Some of the same letters.
It's so and it's funny because uh like I like when it the per because clearly this person is British. Um I like when it's not Anthony, it's Anthony.
Anthony.
It's extra elitist. Yeah.
Or it's Antony.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a little New Jersey-ish.
There's that funny, you know how we were talking about Anderson .Paak, you and I recently? I was
Mhm.
listening to an interview with one of the producers from Silk Sonic, and he's like, yeah, so when Andy came into the studio, and I was like,
Andy.
Anderson is not Andy,
I think
but
he's
he is.
Anderson.
Yeah,
Just like Anderson Cooper, I think Andy Cohen calls him Andy.
yeah.
He
I
also calls him
guess.
Sweetheart, which is nice.
Yeah. I just can't imagine like I don't know, Anderson .Paak is such a like that's a name. Like here you are.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that
Yeah.
fulfilling feeling. It was more about a follow up on, you know what, Friends. So we talked a
Yeah.
lot about Matthew Perry,
Yeah.
but that Jennifer Aniston and her bucket list for things for her career, she says
Hmm.
that she definitely wants to do a Broadway play.
I'm excited about this. I look forward to her stepping on stage. I think she'll kill it.
I think she is one busy bee, though, because she's talking now about how it's about finding the right piece, the right material, and certainly finding the time to do it,
Hmm.
which is great. I think that she has her eye on that is something that she wants to do, though, is something that I think when you manifest things, when
Yeah.
you make the crazy sound beside your head, when you manifest them in that way, that ultimately it'll get done. But the other fun thing I thought was that she's acted on stage before, so it wouldn't be necessarily new territory for her. Um, but I imagine she'd do so well that she would add to her Emmys, her Golden Globes, her Screen Actors Guild Awards by maybe winning a Tony one day.
Hmm.
The idea also that she'd like to return to the Horrible Bosses
Yep.
set, I think is interesting too, that she said, and that other people have talked about it. So Jason Bateman, she and he have talked about it. And then she also mentioned that Charlie Day had mentioned it too. So that's the movie from
2011, right?
2011,
Yeah.
sequel in 2014. It's about the employees and how they plan to murder their abusive bosses and who hasn't thought about that? But she says that that's something that we think would be super fun. She says the characters are hilarious and that we need comedy. She says, I personally think comedy is a necessity. That's one that we'd have a really fun time with. So going back to see, she says, going back to see what those crazy cats are up to would be fun.
Yeah. You know about Jennifer, like she could have been someone who could have been pigeonholed as only a sitcom actress in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think it's great that she's been able to break that mold because she is fantastic on the morning show.
Oh my goodness. I
Like
love that show.
I love that show. I know we probably love it because of our broadcast experience and it
Yes.
like it speaks to things.
It's so
But
well
sh
acted too that
yeah,
the quirky characters, the qualities of each character are people we know, which is cool.
yeah.
And that we've got season number 4 coming in September. So
September 17th, right? Cannot
yeah,
wait. Like,
yeah.
and you
So
know what's
not that we
interesting
want to
is
rush through summer because that just started, but
yeah, we don't want
there's a
that
little
now. But
something.
I will say too, like I don't think they've ever explained why the delay, but we were supposed to get it, or there, you know, there was some significant talk that we were going to get that show right after the U.S. presidential election last November. So
Hmm.
I don't know if they had a certain thing in place and then they had to switch their plan. I don't know, but we were supposed to get this last November.
Interesting.
So almost a year later, right? Like 10 months later. So
Yeah.
I don't know what had it to be, but that was like I read articles like, yeah, like morning show, like season 4 is coming up after the presidential election. And I think I even read an article about a producer from the show talking about how they were trying to navigate things. But yeah, it would be interesting to know what the 10-month delay was about.
Yeah. Maybe they'll address it.
Maybe.
Maybe they won't.
Maybe they won't.
Well, keeping it on Broadway for a while, a little while longer, anyways. Anthony Ramos, who was a part of the original cast of Lin-Manuel Miranda's Hamilton
Yeah.
on Broadway, which is obviously a cultural phenomenon at this point. He was on Andy Cohen recently, speaking of Andy Cohen, on
Mhm.
his Bravo show, and he was asked who the scariest celebrity to have in the audience during the Hamilton original run. And he said, kind of without hesitation, that it was Madonna. Madonna, and added that she was looking at her iPad the whole time. How do you get an iPad into a Broadway theater? A,
Yeah.
I guess you're Madonna. Um, but what are you doing? Banking?
Yeah.
You're depositing that check? Like what's happening here? You're at Hamilton, and at that point, that at in its onset or at the onset of this huge Broadway success story, like that was a ticket to get, man. So
Yeah.
what are you doing on your iPad? Just so strange. And that was basically his takeaway from that was like, hey, you don't have to be here. If you don't want to, if you're not interested in the show,
Yeah.
you're allowed to leave, But imagine, I think that's one thing that film actors and actresses are shielded by. They don't see the audience.
Yeah.
So you can get into your character and maybe try something different without the scrutiny or the immediate reaction of an audience. That said, the flip side of that is that stage actors thrive on that scenario too, where you can feel the audience vibing with you or reacting positively or adversely to what you're trying to do.
Hmm.
That can fuel them. But I think it's multiplied when it's Madonna and it's Madonna
Yeah.
and she's on her iPad.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure, I'll say allegedly, but I'm pretty sure I read an article a long time ago talking about, I think it was from, I think, I'm really sure I read this, but Madonna um, once commented about how, like, or somebody was commenting about Madonna, like, not liking certain people in the front rows of shows that were
Mm-hmm.
industry people because they don't get into the concert, you know what I mean? And like,
Yeah,
so you want your true fans in those first 10 rows, let's say.
sure.
So if anybody should understand,
Yeah,
it should be someone like Madonna who knows how important the interaction is, like because you're in this live space, like you're sharing this space. And so yeah, so I was shocked to read this that because she should like, for lack of a better word, she should know better.
Yeah, totally that.
Yeah,
But
yeah. And it's crazy. I think I told you this when I saw Janet in Detroit back in 1998. I was fortunate that Renee gave myself and my friend we had front row center, right, for the Detroit
whoa.
show, which was like, and she actually chose my friend to go up on stage. Like, so it was like,
What?
so she sang to him or whatever. And I remember at one point, it was like three songs into the Velvet Rope. I think it's either three or four songs, but I'm pretty sure it's three. She takes this break where I shouldn't say, but she stops. The dancers are off stage getting changed or whatever, and she just stops and she's like looking at the crowd, and the spotlight's on her, and she's probably there for like a minute, maybe a bit longer, and the crowd just roars, right? Because like it's her and it's her moment, and she's there. And I turned around because like she was like maybe 4 feet from me at this point, or whatever it was.
Hmm.
And I just wanted to see what it felt like to get
Yeah.
that, like, coming, this wave of like of energy. And so I remember being mind boggled by it, like, because even though they weren't cheering for me, you could just feel this rush of energy.
Yep.
And it's so crazy how like that is a thing. And so that's why, again, this thing with Madonna, like, yeah, she should have known better. Like
Yeah.
those
Because she's
performers
been
need
there.
need the vibe. They need the vibe.
Yeah. And she
So,
has like a beacon of all performers,
yeah,
like she's done it all.
yeah.
Well, the fun thing about the Hamilton cast was that they reunited just a few weeks ago for the Tony Awards, which is, I think, one of the best award shows going because people are, so well spoken,
Hmm.
and their energy when they win is fun and appreciative and not calculated necessarily. And
Hmm.
no offense to anybody else who wins who has prepared speeches, but it just seems that it's because of the nature of what they do and the fact that they, have the skill of having a whole play of dialogue in their head, they can deliver. And it's so well done generally. So it was the 10th anniversary of Hamilton, and the cast was there, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So, um, interestingly, talking about Margaret Cho, and did we say at the beginning who she called weird? Did I say it was Ellen DeGeneres?
You did,
Because
yeah.
she talked about how she used to open up for her in the early 80s. And then when she got her talk show, and Margaret Cho made appearances on that, she made it seem like they were meeting for the first time, which is odd. And she's not mincing any words. She says Ellen was really weird and not nice to me for most of my career. And if you've seen Margaret Cho lately, she's done Celebrity Jeopardy and admittedly studied her butt off for a very successful run on Celebrity Jeopardy. She knows how to work it, right? And she's not giggly, she's not silly, she's funny, she's
Yeah.
dry, but she means business on Celebrity Jeopardy. So it's neat that I think that you get a real sense of who she is. So she's not mincing words when it comes to Ellen. She said that she was confused by the idea. And she's like, "What's going on here?" kind of thing. We go back, so she found it creepy and weird. In one case in particular, she said that there was a specific incident she said that stuck with her when sort of posts going to a David Bowie concert. So she was on the show, David Bowie was on the show ahead of her, um, and that she had worn this Chinese emperor outfit, and that David Bowie mentioned it on the show. And then in the edit, Ellen had it taken out for whatever reason. She said, Margaret Cho said she had a friend on the staff, and she said, "You're not going to believe this," but she talked about how David Bowie just went on and on about this outfit kind of thing, and she said, so the producer, who's a good friend of hers, said, "I can't believe she did this, but she cut it out of the show. But you need to know he was going on and on about your outfit. He said your name. He loves you." So kind of weird that she would have done that too.
Yeah.
And it's, I think, just one more thing on the list of, I don't know, complaints or like reality checks that Ellen DeGeneres has been given over the past few years. And maybe part of the reason why she doesn't live in the US anymore.
Yeah. I mean,
She found her quiet in, she's in
England.
England. Yeah, it's Rosie
Yeah.
O'Donnell that's in Ireland.
Yeah. Well, Rosie also didn't have, she had her things to say recently about Ellen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think it was very telling. Was it Dakota Johnson, I think, that came on? Remember there was that clip where
Yeah.
about the birthday party?
But the birthday, but she didn't mince any words either. And I thought,
Yeah.
historically, when it comes to talk shows and stuff like that, you don't want to rock the boat for these giant talk show hosts who will certainly ultimately help your career. But
Yeah.
at the same time, you know, uh, I guess Dakota Johnson felt more committed to the truth versus, what this talk show host could do for her.
Yeah.
That she was very honest and basically called Ellen out on her own show,
Yeah.
which, depending on how old you are, some might consider that, rude, not to, to sort of outshow the host kind of thing.
Hmm.
But it's interesting, that comment in and of itself, the idea that you're not going to outshow your host, um, that Ellen kind of seems to hunker down on what I guess her version of the truth.
Hmm.
Like, oh well, your birthday party, you didn't invite me. Like she really, she
Yeah.
she stayed with it, and so I think that's probably what was the breaking point for Dakota Johnson. Like, no, actually, we did invite you. You didn't come. So that's an enjoyable visit online and not hard to find, by the
Yeah, no,
way.
it's a good watch.
Yeah, we case in point of the many millions of people who have already seen it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, are you ready for a little go back?
Yeah, did you
Little
can I guess the year? I don't remember you saying what it was. Can I guess?
you can guess. I thought I said it, but go
Maybe
for
you
it.
did. Maybe you did. I'm gonna guess though.
Do you want to give me the I'll want to guess after I give the songs?
No, I want to get no, because I'll know. I'll know. I'm gonna guess 96.
Oh, good guess. But you
Was
know
it?
what that means. Generally, good guess means wrong
Yeah,
answer. We're going back to 1998, Kel. I mean, you had a 1 in 10 chance there,
I
so
did. Yeah.
nice try. Certainly. I was speaking with a friend of mine who's going to Vegas to see the Backstreet Boys at the Sphere.
Yeah.
So with everybody, I think
Nice.
will be a blinding, emotional, pleasant shock at in Vegas. But that was a song that certainly was getting cranked at the start of the summer of 1998, along with "My Way" from
Yeah.
Usher. Truly, madly, deeply. How about that for an? I think that was the title track to that album from Savage Garden.
Mm-hmm.
I believe on the Ultimate Wedding Song playlist, it would be impossible not to see Casey and JoJo's name on that list with All My Life. I pray for someone like you. We'll put a little maple leaf on it and thank Sarah McLachlan for giving us Adia.
She's
I
awesome.
love that song.
I love that song. I love that girl.
Yeah, she's great, and she is on tour. She's getting things back on track. There was an illness at the end of the year. I had tickets to a show, and they got canceled, but now she's returning. So, all good things. Um, oh yeah, there's a couple more. Just because it was on its way to the top of the charts, Will Smith getting jiggy with it.
Yo.
Ghetto Superstar with Pras
Mm,
Michelle, ODB, and Maya.
nice.
And we'll wrap it up with Stop right now. Thank you very much. Spice Girls were on our speakers too, and probably loud, because why wouldn't they be?
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of Spice Girls, Grand Prix weekend in our neck of the woods happened just a couple of weeks ago, almost now.
Hmm.
And I was in taking photographic distance away from Christian Horner.
Were you?
Yep.
You never told me this.
I forgot to tell you this.
It's because you went to the track, right? One day or something?
I went to the track that day. Yeah, on race day, actually.
Okay.
And I did a paddock tour, and he was being interviewed by someone. So I'm sure, whether it's a television show or part of the Netflix thing, maybe you'll see a crazy woman taking pictures of Christian Horner. But can I show you this? Can you see that?
Yeah.
So that's him.
Oh.
Yeah, it's
Why
not a
don't
great
you like be like, Christian, where's
because
Jerry?
because as a broadcaster, I didn't want to interrupt that
Yeah.
person's
Yeah.
flow.
That's fair.
Also, didn't want to get kicked out of the paddock tour
Yeah.
for being the idiot that yelled out, "Christian, get out!"
Yeah.
Yeah,
But you would have been like, it would have been an epic boot on your rear end out the door.
that's true. Go big or go home, and
Yeah.
it would have been that. Just go home.
Yeah.
So that wraps up your '90s rewind, by the way, and it wraps up this show. So thanks, you guys.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for letting us spend some time in our basements, which are air conditioned because we are enjoying record high temperatures in where we are. So thanks for finding us and taking us along on your cool walk or road trip or wherever you're headed. We appreciate that you find us wherever it is that you do and then pass it on to your friends, like all of them. All of them.
All of them. Yeah.
Thank you for listening to 90s Now. Still happening.